Imagine waking up in a time where your signature meant nothing, where your voice in politics didn't exist for centuries. This was the reality for women across the world until they fought back. The right to vote was just the beginning, but even decades later, the workplace remained a battleground, one where women had to fight just to be seen as equals. So today we ask, have we truly achieved equality, or is it just an illusion? Let's dive into the history, the stories, and the battles still being fought today for women's rights. The suffragette movement is often reduced to a footnote in history, but it was anything but small. It was loud, it was relentless, it was a war waged without weapons, but with words, protests, and unwavering courage. One woman who shaped this fight was Susan B. Anthony. Her words still echo today. Men, their rights, and nothing more. Women, their rights, and nothing less. The suffragettes risked imprisonment, public ridicule, and even violence for a simple, undeniable truth: the right to be heard. I often wonder, would I have had the courage to march alongside them? What about you? How would it feel to be denied basic rights simply because of your gender? You were born biologically a woman and you can't exercise your right because of your gender. Winning the right to vote didn't erase inequality. It just opened the door for new battles. Decades later, women in the workplace faced another fight: equal pay, equal opportunity, and basic respect. Even now, women in many industries face systemic barriers. The gender pay gap persists, leadership roles remain male-dominated, and workplace harassment is still alarmingly common. In 2024, women worldwide earned 20% less than men for the same jobs, and in politics, only 26.5% of parliamentary seats are held by women. So I ask you, are we truly equal, or are we just allowed to play in spaces still ruled by men? Today, the definition of womanhood continues to evolve. We see debates about inclusivity, identity, and who gets to claim the title of woman. In sports, in politics, in private spaces, these discussions are shaping the future of gender equality. Some see it as progress, others as disruption, but one thing is certain: women's rights remain at the center of global discourse. I wonder, how do you define womanhood? Is it biology, experience, identity? Let's sit with that question for a moment. History shows us one thing: change is never easy, but it is necessary. Women fought for the right to vote, they fought for fair wages, and today the fight continues in new ways, sometimes loudly, sometimes in silence, but always moving forward. So imagine a world where women had no legal rights, no right to vote, no right to own property, no say in their own futures. It's a reality that existed not so long ago, but today we live in a world shaped by the courage and resiliency of women who fought for the freedoms we now have and the ones we are still fighting for. Welcome to the podcast, What About Me?, where I will explore the past, present, and future of women's rights. My name is Linda Opade, your host, and in this episode, I'll take a journey through history, celebrating the victories, confronting the challenges, and asking the tough questions. Have we truly achieved equality as women, and what's next in the fight for women's rights? From the suffragette movement to modern day activism, this conversation isn't just about history, it's about action. It's about understanding where we have come from and where we are headed. So sit back, get comfortable, and let's dive in. I'll start with the fight for the vote. The suffragette movement was more than a protest, it was a revolution. Women like Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony fought tirelessly for the right to vote, knowing that political power was the key to change. In 1848, the Seneca Falls Convention became the first organized demand for women's rights. Stanton and Lucita The suffrage movement was the defining moment where the women's movement for equality started. The movement gained momentum in the 19th and early 20th centuries. Women rallied, protested, and faced imprisonment for demanding political power. In 1893, New Zealand became the first country to grant women the right to vote on a national level, a groundbreaking victory that inspired movements worldwide. Slowly, change swept across nations. In the United States, the 19th Amendment was ratified in 1920, giving women the right to vote after decades of advocacy led by figures like Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton. In the United Kingdom, the Representation of the People Act of 19 voting rights to women over 30. But voting was just the beginning. The fight extended into workplace, schools, and homes. But voting was just the beginning. The fight extended into workplaces, schools, and homes. Landmark laws changing the system. The women were now acceptable in political atmospheres and workplaces. As women secured voting rights, they turned their attention to other legal inequalities. The laws governing marriage, divorce, education, and workplace equality were designed to benefit men. In the early 20th, women fought for the right to work without discrimination, the right to access education, and the right to leave abusive marriages. Slowly, legal victories started reshaping society, though enforcement remained inconsistent. One of the most significant international victories came in 1979 with the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination against Women. This landmark treaty set global standards for women's rights, but even today, progress depends on whether countries actively enforce them. Today, the battle isn't over. While women's legal protections have strengthened across the world, challenges remain. Women hold leadership roles globally, but true parity remains elusive. Only 26.7% of parliamentary seats worldwide are occupied by women. Gender-based violence is another issue. Every 10 minutes, a woman is murdered by someone in her own family. The gender pay gap is also another issue women face. Women still earn around 80 cents to every dollar earned by men in many countries. Movements continue to push for change, whether it's equal pay, reproductive rights, or addressing workplace discrimination. The fight remains as urgent as ever. Let's talk about global differences. Women's rights have advanced unevenly across the world. Some nations have made rapid strides, while others still struggle with basic freedoms. Nordic nations such as Sweden, Norway, Finland, Iceland, they are the leading countries in gender equality through strong workplace protections, parental leave policies, and political representation. Canada and New Zealand, the early adopters of suffrage with the continued focus on gender-inclusive policies. Rwanda holds one of the highest percentages of women in parliament, an example of remarkable political progress. The moderate countries include United States and United Kingdom. Legal rights are strong, but wage gaps and reproductive rights remain contested. India and South Africa, legal protections exist, but enforcement varies and cultural norms still impact gender equality. In Latin America, countries such as Argentina, Chile, Mexico, vibrant feminist movements push for workplace rights and reproductive freedoms. Countries that have moved slowly include the Middle East and North Africa. Some nations have taken steps forward. For example, Saudi Arabia allowing women to drive, but legal freedoms remain limited. Afghanistan, women's rights have dramatically regressed due to political instability, with restrictions on education and employment. Some parts of Africa and Asia, gender-based violence is at increase. Gender-based violence has increased. Lack of education access is another problem that women and girls face in Africa, some parts of Africa and Asia, and economic disparities continue to limit progress for women's rights. Let's discuss the key factors influencing change. Why do some countries advance faster while others remain stagnant? It's because of 4 factors: legal framework, cultural norms, economic development, and political will. Strong laws create foundations for progress. Deep-rooted traditions can slow or resist change. Wealthier nations often have more resources for gender equality initiatives, and governments prioritizing women's rights see faster improvements than governments that don't care about women's rights. Women throughout history have voiced their struggles and hopes, words that still inspire today. For example, Susan B. Anthony, I quote, "Men, their rights and nothing more. Women, their rights and nothing less," end quote. Another inspiring quote is by Charlotte Brontë, I quote, "I am no bad and not." Another inspiring quote from Charlotte Brontë, I quote, "I am no bad and no net ensnares me. I am a free human being with an independent will," in quotes. One of the most pivotal gatherings in history was the Seneca Falls Convention of 1848, where Elizabeth Seton and one of the most pivotal gatherings in history was the Seneca Falls Convention of 1848, where Seton and Mott boldly declared, I quote, "We hold this truth to be self-evident, that all men and women are created equal," in quotes. Another defining moment was Sojourner Truth's speech, in quotes, "And I, a woman, 51. As a formerly enslaved woman, she challenged racial and gender discrimination with a speech that still resonates today." We have come far, but the fight isn't over. Equality isn't just about the past, it's about action today. So I leave you with this. Have we truly achieved gender equality?